Hello, projectors. I see you, and I'm so happy that you're here. Today, we're talking all about you and your aura type and what that means for communicating. What does that mean for writing copy and in your business, right? You've maybe heard and looked into what it means to be a projector and that your aura type is either penetrating or focused, right? And it is. It's incredibly focused. And my husband is a projector and he sees me in such a way that like no one else sees me. Not just because he's my husband, but because he's a projector. And people have to be ready for that energy, right? They have to be ready and willing to and open to what you have to say. Projectors have a really unique way of seeing solutions, and that's why it's so important that people are ready for your solutions, because if you're just going out and, like, blasting everybody with how you think they need to fix their problems, it's going to fall on deaf ears, right? It's going to feel like you're talking into a black hole and no one is listening, right? And that leaves you feeling bitter and frustrated. And so, how do we open up other people's auras, right? How do you share your solutions in a way that gets people interested and gets people wanting to interact with you, right? And I have a few suggestions and a few ideas that are actually, I think, quite different than what other people are sharing out there in the human design world. Um, I'm hearing a lot of interesting things that I feel are very conflicting for a lot of projectors, and it's not helpful for projectors either. So, what I'm sharing is definitely going against the grain, but it's tested time and time again with my projector clients in how I teach them to go out in the world and create copy and write copy from an authentic place. And it works really, really well for them. So, here we go. Um, the one thing I want to share first is I hear a lot of projectors should use you statements, right? Creating this like hero story that people can put themselves in. And while that's close, I don't think it's actually helpful for you as a projector. If you A lot of the projectors that come to me are writing content that's very steeped in you statements. It's um they're writing, you feel this frustration, you feel like this, you really want this, here's the solution. And then they go into XYZ of, kind of more vague than anything, but you go into the solution of what it is. But that doesn't create clients. It doesn't bring clients to you. It doesn't create an audience or people wanting to know more. It creates a barrier when you write content like that as a projector. It creates a barrier because most manifestors and manifesting generators, especially, don't want to be told what to do by a projector. We don't, w- you, c- It almost feels like you're coming at someone and saying they're doing it wrong. Here's how to do it. Right. And if you're a projector, you're probably like, well, yeah, you are doing it wrong. But that's the penetrating, that's the like focused energy that people have to be ready for. And coming at them with a like, you're doing it wrong energy, and here's the solution, doesn't allow them their own agency. And it doesn't allow them to say, raise their hand and go, I want the solution. That's what you want people to say. You want people to invite you in and want your solution, right? So, your statements is like, can get you into trouble. Bottom line, it gets you into trouble. So, how do you write copy instead? What is a better way to approach what you do? You know, you have solutions, right? And it's using I statements. It's the opposite, right? It's using I statements and sharing your story. Likely, if you're a projector and you're in the healing world, in the coaching world, you have achieved something, you've solved that problem for yourself first and uncovered a new way of figuring out the solution, right? And now you want to help other people do it, right? So sharing your story, how the system that you created in solving the problem, that's what you're sharing. You're sharing it from your own experience, right? Using I statements. I once felt, I overcame, I worked through X, right? I found the solution and it changed my life. And then invite people in. Like, do you want that solution? Does that sound like something that you would want to do in your life? Invite them in to the solution so that they have agency over saying, yes, yeah, I want to learn from you. I want what you have. Teach me your ways, right? And instead of the you, you use the you statement when you're inviting people in, but you're using I statements when you're talking about the solution. Does that make sense? Right? So, as a projector, you're reaching for success, and your guidepost is bitterness. When you're reaching for success, you have to define the success, what that means for you, not what the world tells you success is, because it's likely very off and will lead to bitterness if you're creating or if you're going after success from the 3D world. What does success mean for you and for your life? How do you determine what's successful? Is it 5 clients? Is it 10 clients? Whatever. Like, what is your definition of success? Is it taking a nap every day? Is it just being able to help people with your zone of genius? Like, what is your version of success? And then allowing that bitterness to be your guidepost to, does something need to shift? If you're feeling bitter over the amount of work that you have, then that needs to change. The definition of success needs to shift, right? Your strategy is waiting for that invitation. And I don't want you to go into that idea of waiting for the invitation that you can't share what you do, how you do it, or your story or anything like that. You do not need to wait for an invitation to share your story. Absolutely not. What you're doing is creating an environment by sharing your story that invites people into possibility. It invites them into having that solution that you have, right? And while you're waiting for people to realize that you're genius in a lot of ways, you're sharing your story, you're sharing what you've learned, you're diving deeper into what you love, right? And really honing your craft, and you're being you. You're just doing what is fun and exciting and going with your flow of energy while you're waiting. And in that waiting, I can guarantee you, if you're showing up in a way that feels really good for you, sharing your story and just talking about what you do, people are going to want to know more. They're going to want to know what it is that you have that can help them. Okay. And then they'll be like, oh my gosh, will you help me with X? Will you do this? Will you do that? Will you share more about this? Right. And that's what you're waiting for, right? You're waiting for that invitation. Okay. So when you're expressing yourself, you're sharing your story. You're sharing how you created a process or a system to a solution. So think of it like a table. You have the solution, that solution's the tabletop, and the legs are the system. It could have 3 legs, maybe it has 4, but without all of these legs, the table is wobbly and it doesn't quite work right. You take one away, it doesn't work, right? You don't have to do table leg 1 before table leg 2, but you do need to understand all 3 table legs before you can have that solution. That's your system. That's the way that you see getting people to that solution, right? So, what are these table legs that are holding it up for you in your business? That's what you're sharing with people of how these table legs work together to get to the solution. And the evidence is your own life. And then once you have clients, the evidence is their stories and you're really sharing how it's changed their lives, right? Um, hmm. So as the projector, you may or may not have your throat defined. And obviously in communication, your throat is a huge center and a really huge determinant of how you communicate. So if you're defined, if you have that's the third center down your throat. If it is colored in, that's defined. You have a channel going to your throat that's also defined. It's also black. Looking into that energy, because that means that you have a very distinct voice as that projector. And there is a distinct way that you want to talk about things. And that's really important to understand. So looking into that. If you're undefined, meaning your throat is white, you still may have gates that are lit up, and that can be important to look at as well. But the important thing that I want you to know as an undefined throat person is that your voice is like a chameleon. You reflect back what people are saying and exactly what they need to hear. When you are in alignment and being who you are, you're observing people with that open throat. And then you're able to reflect back exactly what they're saying and exactly what they need to hear. And then they feel seen and heard, right? Which is everything to a projector. Your people want to be seen and heard by you, and you want to feel seen and heard by them, right? So understanding how your throat works is really important as a projector too. So to recap, be careful with your use statements. You want to use them strategically as a way to invite people in, right? And you're using more I statements and sharing your story first. Sharing your story, obviously. How did you come to this solution? How did your life change because of the what you discovered over by creating your process, right? Your guidepost is success and bitterness, right? How are you defining success? And how are you allowing bitterness to keep you on the right track? And inviting people into possibility in the solution that you offer, right? So I hope this was helpful as a projector, that it gave you some insights into how to communicate more effectively as a projector, because you are guides. You are here to guide people in a very strategic, in a very unique way that is you and you alone. And when you are in your projector energy, they're guiding, confident in what you do, confident in the way that you guide. People can't help but be attracted to you. They can't help but be like, "Oh my God, tell me more. Give me all of your gifts. I am here with an open heart," right? And this is all that we want. So, huh, thank you so much for listening. Yeah, we have so much more to talk about, but for now, that's it. My projector loves.